What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we're going back into the rant series. This time we're going to the NFC for the first time in the NFL, of course. And we're going to start with the NFC West. So there are four teams in the NFC West, of course: the Arizona Cardinals, the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Seattle Seahawks. However, this video is only going to discuss three of those four teams, as one of the four will get its own video during the NFL offseason. So without further ado, let's jump right in, and we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals, of course, going in alphabetical order. And bullet point one here is going to be Larry Fitzgerald. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Fitzgerald. He's a very great class act. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame the day he retires. Well, 5 years after he retires, I should say. But there's two reasons he's on this list. First off, the Cardinals' usage of him. They wasted this guy's career. Fitzgerald, great receiver, obviously, like I said, Hall of Famer, and a class act on and off the field. But why have you done absolutely nothing with him? You've had one good season, essentially 2 good seasons with him, and that's it. It's just disgusting and a waste of his talent and everything. The second reason he's on this list is because he always dominates the Eagles year after year. When the Eagles play Fitzgerald, he dominates the Eagles. So regardless of what they do, he always has a good game. So yeah, that's enough to get you on this list. NFC East rivals through the 2001 season. So I don't remember the Cardinals in the NFC East. I didn't look at the standings back then. I do remember in like 03, 04, they would mention it once in a blue moon when the Eagles played the Cardinals. Oh, this used to be a division series. And remember, at one point the Cardinals were based in Chicago. So they started in Chicago, and that's basically why they were in the NFC East. And so they were rivals with the Eagles, and that's enough for a bullet point. 2008 NFC Championship game. So I mentioned Fitzgerald dominating the Eagles. He did it in 2008. Well, 2009, actually, January of 2009. The Eagles had a pretty surprising good year. I think they were the 6th seed that year in the playoffs. They had a good run. They make it to the championship game, and I have some hope. And they just play this really garbage first half. Cardinals dominate, specifically Fitzgerald. Kurt Warner shows his Kurt Warner magic. Knocked out my Eagles in the year that the Eagles really had a chance. And I think they would have beaten the Steelers in that Super Bowl. They were built more to handle the Steelers than the Cardinals were, and the Cardinals played a very close Super Bowl. So I really wish the Eagles had won that game. And that's more than enough to get a bullet point here. Last, constant underachieving. I mentioned that Super Bowl. They should have had a run at it, but they didn't. That was their only Super Bowl appearance. Remember, the Super Bowl started in the 65-66 season. So it's not like when they were in Chicago for that long, there's Super Bowls. So there's that. And then, of course, there was a few years ago, I think it was the 2015 season, where they had a very, very good season. And they just completely fell apart in the playoffs, towards the end of the regular season into the playoffs. Constant underachieving. It ties in with Larry Fitzgerald. And they always have these great receivers that they don't know what to do with because they can't get a quarterback. We'll see with Kyler Murray. Of course, we'll see how Kyler does. Los Angeles Rams. So a few years ago, the Rams would have had a much shorter list. I used to like the Rams, but then they moved from St. Louis, and we'll get to that. But right now, moving from St. Louis, point one. You'll notice when a team moves in my lifetime, I definitely don't like that typically. And the Rams leaving St. Louis was such a slap in the face to go back to Los Angeles. Yes, I am aware. I can see in the comment section people saying, well, the Rams were based in Los Angeles before. That is true. There's a reason they left LA in the 90s. And guess what? You shouldn't have gone back. I'm less upset with the Rams going back than the Chargers going there. Because the Chargers had no reason to be in Los Angeles when there's already a team there. And the fan base cannot support 2 teams. They don't care enough about football in Los Angeles. So, yeah, their owner just... No, I cannot stand the Rams owner. What he did to St. Louis, demanding that they buy him a new stadium. You're a billionaire. Why can't you fund enough money? They're doing what they can. Why do you demand that the people pay for the stadium? Pay for it yourself, buddy. Seriously. And the Los Angeles is bending over backwards to get him. I don't understand why. The Rams are constant underachievers. Falling to Brady not once, but twice. 2 times the Rams played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. There are 3 teams that can say they played the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. The Eagles, the Giants, and the Rams. The Eagles split the series, one apiece. The Giants swept the series, 2-0. The Rams lost both times. Now, of course, Brady's first ring and his last ring with the Patriots were against the Rams. So it just boggles my mind that you lost not once but twice to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. It's just annoying is what it is, to put it nicely. Completely different regimes for the Rams. Completely different. And you can't beat them. You can't beat them, not once but twice. And, of course, you gave us one of the worst Super Bowls, definitely the worst of my lifetime, being born in 97, with the Super Bowl 53. Such an ugly game, such a boring game. Could basically sleep through the whole damn thing. So, yeah. And then, of course, losing to Brady when he was a backup taking over, that's another point right there. Greatest show on turf. So the greatest show on turf was supposed to be this amazing elite team. The Rams had this amazing offense. They did get a Super Bowl out of it. They beat the Titans. But then they fell to Brady, and that was essentially the end of their dynasty. Their dynasty was supposed to last a while, but it didn't. And there's a lot of reasons for that we're not going to discuss today. And, so the greatest show on turf. Wasted top picks. This ties into our next bullet point, which is the RG3 trade. So they always, especially in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they stunk. And they would take these guys early on, and they would never do anything with them. Sam Bradford, first overall pick, what happens with him? The guy keeps getting hurt because they don't have an offensive line to keep him healthy. Of course, Chris Long, what happens with him? The guy's constantly underrated because the team around him sucks. So there's no point in caring about Chris Long if your whole team sucks. And it's mind-boggling is what it is. Any player that they pick early on, it just struggles because the Rams don't know how to support a team. They don't know what they're doing. Jared Goff hasn't been looking that good. And yes, I'm aware, Wentz is looking worse than Goff in 2020. But every other year, other than that, you'd probably be hard-pressed to find people saying Goff's the better player than Wentz. But, yeah, and then the RG3 trade, there's a trade breakdown on this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's one of the first trade breakdown videos that we did here on Heartland Sports. So they had all these picks, and they got nothing out of it. Nothing out of it, essentially. Because this Rams team does not know what it's doing. And it's so irritating. And then, of course, another point is because you gave the Washington Robert Griffin III, who was a good Eagle killer. So, last team is the San Francisco 49ers. Again, Seattle, you guys get your own video. Congratulations. Terrell Owens. I remember the T.O. saga. Boy. Terrell Owens is going to get you a point if you had him. And you had him. And you ended up essentially having to get rid of him because he demanded to leave the team. There's that whole moment there where he claims the Cowboys star, and I know a couple people who were at that game, so I asked them about it years ago, and they were telling me, oh, it's so cool, you could CTO just claim the star and starts a whole thing. So that's a plus for them, but everything with Terrell Owens other than that is a minus. It's such a weird situation with Terrell Owens. I honestly don't know where we're going with Terrell Owens. The guy is something. He's one of the most out there personalities in the NFL and sports in general. And of course, I remember him as an Eagle. He definitely should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he wasn't. So of course, that was very interesting to me. He ends up going in, I believe he went out as a Niner instead of an Eagle. So that of course hurt a little bit, but it made sense. Fan base. Your fan base is god awful. I remember in the early 2010s, I think it was 2012, 2013, Eagles were playing an early season game there, and some moron pulls the fire alarm in the Eagles hotel room at 2 a.m. it's already ridiculous when an East Coast team has to play on the West Coast because the time's already messed up. And then your fans do that garbage. It's completely unfair. It is completely unfair when your fans do that. I'm going to skip to my last bullet point, which is Candlestick Park, because it ties in with fan base. So Candlestick Park was awful. There's a lot of horror stories at Candlestick Park. Of course, there's that one moment where the fans there beat up the Raiders fans so bad that he's having trouble. I don't know if I think he's paralyzed from now. So it's just insane that your fan base is that bad. You guys can take the title of meanest fan base. Go right ahead. But it's just ridiculous, the stuff that they got away with at Candlestick Park. Playing in Arizona. Only in 2020 would this happen. But because of the whole pandemic, the San Francisco 49ers are not allowed to play their games at home at this point in time as of recording of this video. And it's kind of embarrassing that you got to play in your rival stadium. But that's where we are in 2020. Lastly, the 80s dynasty. They were a very good team in the 80s. Obviously, you had Joe Montana and Steve Young. You had Terrell Owens. You had the best receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, no questions asked. There are so many good players you can name from those teams. And they were so good for so long. Of course, that's going to be a knock on you. So, one good thing to say about each team now, 49ers. One of my friends is a big Niners fan. Of course, his parents were the ones that were at the Cowboys 49ers game, and he's just a big Niners fan. So they do have a lot of memorabilia at the house. So I have seen a Joe Montana autographed jersey. So there's that. Los Angeles Rams. Again, I used to somewhat support you guys because you were so irrelevant. Then you became good. So, of course, I kind of fell out of favor. But I do like some of your players. I don't mind Goff as a quarterback. I'm not the biggest Goff fan, but I don't mind him. But you have had some good guys, too, like Todd Gurley. Now you got Darrell Henderson. I love Henderson. Arizona Cardinals. Arizona is in an interesting position, but I've never really hated the Cardinals despite them beating the Eagles in the 2008 championship game. I did still root for them over Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl that year. So there's that. That was the NFC West Rant video. Again, Seattle will get its own video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And fly Eagles fly today if you're a Cardinals fan. Have a good one.